Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr. This is the OnTheStacks podcast.
Oh yeah, whoa, look, they can never keep me down, I'm going, and if I ever fail, just know I'll go again. I never quit, cause I know that every loss may lead to another win. I'm going up.
When I know someone's come to yoga and they just lost a husband, or like they're coming there for a reason, and then I get to see their journey and like a lot of those people, like I've taught them for like years at this point, and like I've known their whole journey, and that's like beautiful to me.
Today, I'm chatting with Alyssa Kashuda, yoga instructor and co-owner of the Salt Bar. This episode is brought to you by the Pest Rangers. Finding insects in your home can be a real pest. I know I felt that way when I discovered termites living rent-free in my house. But thanks to the team at the Pest Rangers, I'm no longer bugging out over this issue. So if any creepy crawlers are cramping your style, there's no ifs, ands, or bugs about it. You gotta call the Pest Rangers. For more information on how to rid your home from unwanted pests, call the Pest Rangers today at 570-826-1114 or visit them online at thepestrangers.com. This episode is brought to you by Cavanaugh's Grill, one of my favorite places to eat and drink in any PA. They've got one of the best outdoor patios with 13 TVs and over 20 beers on tap. You can also dine inside at this cozy Irish-style pub where your beer never goes empty. Did I mention how delicious their food is? Their in-house smoked brisket, barbecue ribs, and wings are to die for. So grab your friends and have a drink on me at Cavanaugh's. Mention code STACKS for one free draft beer with purchase of any entree when you dine in. Located at 163 North Main Street in Mountaintop, Cavanaugh's is open at 4 p.m. during the week and 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday during football season. Dine in today at Mountaintop's only Irish-style pub. This episode is brought to you by Brrrn, the fitness company behind the Today Show approved Brrrn board. If I'm being honest, working out can be a real chore, especially as a new dad in desperate need of sleep and cardio. Brrrn is founded by NEPA native Jimmy T. Martin, and his Brrrn board offers a low-impact core and cardio experience unlike anything I've done before. They have hundreds of on-demand workouts that are great for beginners, seasoned athletes, and out-of-shape podcast hosts who love supporting small businesses. My wife and I use it pretty frequently throughout the week, and it's honestly a great way to burn a ton of calories without burning a ton of cash. Not to mention, it's a great tool for skiers, runners, wrestlers, and hockey players. Jimmy is offering all OnTheStacks listeners 15% off when they use the code STACKS15. Visit thebrrrn.com today to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15 at checkout. Again, that's thebrrrn, THEBRRRN.com to get 15% off your purchase with code STACKS15. It's time to get on board today with Brrrn. What's up, podcast? It's Bill Corcoran Jr., host of the OnTheStacks podcast, here in the Blue Door studio, protected by our friends at Ritchie Security Solutions. Alyssa Kashuda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, this is great. So is it true that no matter your skill level, you can't be bad at yoga?
Yes, 100%.
Are you sure, though? I mean, did you see my yoga that we did before?
I did. It looked great.
Was it? Was it good?
I thought so.
I did all right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right. So, bar or berry?
Bar. So
Bar.
everybody thinks that it's called the salt berry because of wilkes-barre.
Right.
But it's really the salt bar. Bar is a workout that we have at the studio, and that's where that came from. So
Yeah. So up until you came here, I've been saying berry. I have to admit it. I've been saying berry this whole time. I probably will still call it berry, even though it's bar.
That's fine with me.
How many people still say berry?
We have a good chunk, and like even some current clients will come in every once in a while, and they'll say, "Oh, I was thinking about the salt berry like this weekend or whatever." They have a story to say, and I don't correct them.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's like wilkes-barre.
Yep.
You know, it's just like wilkes-barre. Even though wilkes-barre is technically the correct pronunciation is berry, which is why I thought not that I thought it had any association with wilkes-barre, but it's just that, you know, wilkes-barre is spelled Barre, and it's pronounced berry. So I just figured that's what it was.
Yeah.
But I am wrong. It's the salt bar. So that's settled and squashed. So you've been doing yoga for a long time.
Yep.
What?
About, well, exactly a decade, really. So
A decade.
And I've been teaching for a decade, so
Yeah.
I only started practicing a year before I started teaching.
So what really got you into yoga? Like why yoga for you?
So I always thought that yoga was actually something weird people did back in the day. My sister started meditating when she was like 12. And ironically, she doesn't do it anymore.
Is she weird?
I mean, I always thought she was weird.
All right, she's weird.
but she so she started meditating, and I thought it was just one of these things weird people did, and I never really like thought yoga was something for me. I always liked running or doing high intensity workouts or whatever. I hated yoga. Like I thought it was too slow and boring and didn't do anything for me. But in 2012, I went through a breakup, and a friend, it was like my like college serious boyfriend, like talked about marriage and the whole 9 yards or whatever. So like it was a pretty intense breakup, but I was very depressed after that, and to the point of like going to therapy and things like that. So yoga was like a different way that a friend thought that I could start to channel my energy, and maybe just she really didn't know the meditative benefits of it yet either, so it was just like a different workout basically for me is what I thought it was. So she dragged me to yoga, and I ended up continuing to go even though I still wasn't totally sold on it yet. But I went for a year, and it was a power yoga, which is more like a workout. So I think that's why I liked it.
So yeah, what sports did you do before, or like what workouts like were you into before yoga?
So I played soccer in high school, and like pretty much since I was a child. And I always was really good at running. So I ended up running after college and enjoying that. And mostly, I actually did that in college too. I would just do that and like the insanity workouts and stuff like that. I always liked basketball growing up as well. But yeah, like more team sports, I guess, is what I like.
So you were always like super physically active.
Yeah.
Basically your whole life.
Yep.
And then you got into this yoga thing, thinking like, oh my god, like this isn't
not my level.
This isn't a workout.
Yeah.
Right. This is like a lower level thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was actually hard when I did it. Especially the power yoga, because it's so fast paced. So you're like up or down on the ground, and then up, and then down again, and then up. Like it was all over the place, but I liked it for that reason. Now, if you were to ask me about power yoga, it's probably my least favorite yoga. I like the slower stuff now, but it took me a long time to get there.
Took you 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I did that for about a year, the power yoga, and I felt like probably after a year, the meditative parts of it like started to kind of sneak their way into like making me feel better. But like also there's like a whole mindset thing that comes with like yoga, and when you're going to classes, you're hearing different things and teachings from the teachers and stuff like that too. So like whatever their like mental health like affirmation or whatever it is that they want to share with you throughout that class, like that's like the intention of the class.
Okay.
So I felt like that kind of guided me to pretty much everything else that I did throughout the last decade for my mental health as well. So
yeah. So like you were able to really connect like to yoga and through some of the instructors that you experienced, in your early yoga days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? On the Stacks will be back in a flash after a word from our sponsor.
It's never an easy decision to place your mom or your dad in a nursing home. And one of the things that nursing homes will give you in the opening packet of documents is what's called an arbitration agreement. By signing this agreement, you're giving up your right to a jury trial, and that any case you have will be heard by an arbitrator. The law says that that is not to be a precondition to admission.
And now we're back on the Stacks. So all right, so going back to the anxiety depression thing, like was it, is this something, obviously, you said that it became bad for you during this like breakup, right? Mm-hmm. But was it a problem like previously in your life, or?
So actually, now that I look back at it, I can see I was an anxious child, but like it didn't really have a name back then, I don't think, or people just weren't as aware of it as they are now.
So what does that mean? It's like, explain that. You're an anxious child. How?
So, like probably as far as grade school goes, even I'd be at recess and I'd be doing homework. Like I needed to finish my homework before I got home. And like not because I'd get in trouble or anything. It was just like that made me feel relaxed or something. So I like refused to play at recess. And like the teachers would always mention this to my parents, but they always thought it was a good thing. Like even the teachers did too. Because like anxiety wasn't really a thing, I guess, back then, or not a thing.
Yeah, it just wasn't talked about. Like no one really knew.
Yeah, and like the signs of like an anxious child, which I think still could be kind of fuzzy for a lot of people. But then like once I got into high school, it became, when I'm looking at it now, a problem, but like my parents didn't see a problem with it. It was just more of a, oh, she's always like this, driving us nuts.
Did you know or recognize that you maybe had a problem?
No.
So you had no idea.
No.
So what was it like in high school? Like,
so in high school, I was always very shy. So I was actually like, even senior year, like I was voted the most shy, like when they have those like awards, which is funny now because you can't shut me up really. but back then, like I was really shy, and in terms of grades and stuff too, like I would struggle not getting 100 on tests. So, and like any extra credit, like if there were 20 points extra credit on a test that I got 100 on, I needed to get all 20 of those points.
So you had to do better than 100.
Yes.
Is that even a thing?
Well, apparently I did it.
Yeah.
But it was like to the point that like some of my teachers would like talk to my parents and they'd be like, I don't know what she's like, how she studied, because most of the class got 70s and she got 110.
And you got 120. You have a 5.0 GPA.
Yeah, so it was like, but like if I didn't get 100, or even if I got like a 90 or something, I was a little bit bent out of shape over it. So that drove my parents nuts, of course. And even like studying for tests and stuff, I like needed my dad to like quiz me constantly. Like I just didn't have like a self-trust, I guess, like thinking I studied enough for things. So that drove him nuts.
Yeah.
For like the 4 years of high school.
So it was like a lot of overthinking?
Yeah, so a lot of overthinking, and I think just like a lack of confidence in a lot of ways, but I'm still not really totally sure where that stemmed from. I do know like through therapy and stuff like that, like I guess in kindergarten there was one moment that I recall like a teacher like telling me I got something wrong and she couldn't understand, like she kind of freaked out over it a little bit. And but that's really the only thing that I can think of.
So like it like traumatized you kind of
like
as a kid.
That would be like some reason that you'd like all of a sudden be like obsessed over getting like perfect grades constantly.
Yeah. So like you took that and you just like then had to get 120 on every test basically for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfectionist, I guess.
Yeah. So okay. So I know like, you know, you mentioned depression too,
Mm-hmm.
and I know everybody probably experiences anxiety and or depression at like different times of their life, different levels, and everybody's situation is like different.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, what was it more like for you? Like, you know, after the school thing, like, you know, like how did this stuff like resurface like as an adult, and like what was your experience like?
So really through college, well, at least my first year of college, I found I was still like a perfectionist with my grades. It wasn't until my sophomore year of college that one of my friends, I guess her sister had anxiety and like took medication for it. So she told me to talk to my doctor about it, and that's where I realized, oh, this isn't how everybody feels. And like everybody's not just like constantly like on and like not sleeping through the whole night and like that kind of thing, because that was pretty much my whole life too. Like I didn't think you slept 12 hours if you wanted to.
Okay, so sleep was like a problem.
Yeah. So yeah, like I would just have a very difficult time falling asleep, but then also like staying asleep, just thoughts would constantly be kind of on. And yeah, so this friend mentioned to me about her sister, and so I talked to my doctor, and he like asked like all the questions that they ask you, like is this overthinking happening, and like what's sleep like, and like all that stuff. He didn't really ask anything I was doing holistically or anything. So I didn't dive into this world of wellness or anything yet either, so I wasn't aware of all that there is to do, or like even I think science has come far since then too, like in the research that's done on like a lot of holistic things that wasn't available in like even 2010. So I went on a medication there. So for 2 years or so I was on that and just kind of felt like really numb. Like
was it an anxiety or depression med?
It's kind of like a combination.
Okay.
Like, so they kind of do the same thing. They just increase your dosage of like it wasn't Zoloft or something. It was Celexa, which can be used for anxiety and depression. And those are the only ones that I'm familiar with that I've been been using like at any point in my life are the ones that kind of do double duty. But yeah, like if I was in a depression, then they'd kind of increase it, basically the dosage. But
so what did that do for you?
So that made me numb in terms of processing emotions. Like even happiness was like hard for me. Like I just kind of felt blah about everything. Or like if I got in a fight with a friend or something, like they could be crying in front of me and I just had nothing. like it was just like no empathy,
like
or
you couldn't relate.
Yeah, like just not really. I don't know. It was odd because
I'm
a super sensitive person. So it's like now, like if somebody cries, like I cry with them. Yeah. So it was a very odd feeling. And I don't think I really even noticed that for probably at least 1.5 years that I was on that medication. I didn't notice it for a long time, but I did notice that I was felt more comfortable with tests and grades and stuff. And if I didn't get like 100 and I had like an 88 or something, it wasn't like the end of the world if I did my best. So like that helped me kind of like take the edge off, I guess, with that. But yeah, and then after college, that's when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend. And we were dating for like 3 years and like we're super serious and everything. So when we broke up, I actually ended up having suicidal thoughts that time. So that's where like I like came home and I told my parents, and because I was living at home at the time because you're like 1 year out of college. so I told my parents, and my mom got me in touch with a psychologist, and I think she prescribed me something different, and that helped to be a little bit less like making me numb, and that's pretty much the only one that I used for the longest time, because I still felt like myself, but yeah, so I had those suicidal thoughts and everything, and mostly did therapy, and I felt a lot better after like a couple months of that, and then also doing yoga, and then I signed up for my teacher training that November, I want to say. So that's probably like 7 or 8 months after the breakup. I started doing my teacher training for yoga and was like on this new life
and
path.
this is all like 1 year out of college.
Yep.
So like did you have like your first like real job at this point?
So yes, I had my first real job. I got it like right out of college, and so yeah, I was probably there for 1.5 years before I did my teacher training.
What were you doing?
I was a digital marketing specialist, so I did like social media marketing was the main thing I did at that company, but also like coding and different things like that. It was kind of a jack of all trades kind of job where you learn to almost be like an entrepreneur within the company, because you have like your own little websites that like you're managing, and sorry, the company had like 5 or 6 websites. So then like each digital specialist had like a website to manage. So the website that I was doing, I was putting products on, taking products off, but then also like doing the social media for that, doing the email marketing for that, and then all the landing page coding and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of different hats, I guess, I wore in that job, which was all real fun, and like ultimately I think set me up for doing all of that stuff on my own in my own businesses as well. So I never regretted it.
Yeah.
But I did that for 1.5 years, mostly because I got bored, I think, at that job. So, and I don't like getting paid to do nothing. So when I would just be sitting there waiting for tasks, or like that, I've read all of the blogs on like marketing or whatever busy work I could give myself. Like once I was done with that, I was just like bored. And then they were also kind of laying some people off in the company. It just wasn't, you could tell like there were signs it wasn't doing well at that point. So, eventually I decided, well, I'm going to dive full into this wellness thing and figure this out. And
so this is simultaneous to your depression.
Yep.
And this is you started learning yoga at this point, like almost like the tipping point when you're leaving that job. Is that kind of the timeline?
Yes.
So all right, so take me through it.
Okay, so I quit the job, and I think I had just graduated my teacher training. So now this is like the beginning of, it's the end of 2013, I want to say, or
yeah, so it's like
almost
2 years out of school, right?
Yeah. So once I graduated the teacher training, then I like did a yoga retreat to really kind of just, it was like my gift to myself or whatever. And I connected with a lot of the people there too, who also had like the passion that like I did for like helping people. And it kind of helped me see like, I don't know, just like all different ways that people live, I guess, that are also like, and how they found yoga, like their story coming to yoga.
So were you a yoga believer now at this point?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
For like 4 years, for like
Yeah.
that at this point you probably realize like, is this helping my anxiety and depression? And the answer is
yes.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're a
Yeah, so
yoga believer.
I was like 100%, like I felt like I overcame so much in like that like 2-year period, or year and a half-ish period, that like I felt like I was like good to go for like life. Like I felt like nothing else would like come up and pop up as a roadblock. But as you know, things do. So.
Yeah, right.
But as I quit my job and everything and like did the yoga retreat, like I definitely felt like I was way more confident with even just like having that confidence in myself to do something like that and like to start without really a plan, which is definitely what I did.
Yeah. So all right. So let me kind of go back, because you know, going back to like your younger days, like you did very well, like in school, grades, tests, obviously, right? But like, you didn't feel confident?
No.
Right? That's like, yeah, which is like kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And then 2 years out of college, you know, you're going through, you know, these struggles, and, you know, you got some help, and you're feeling better, right? And you find yoga and wellness and wholeness and all that. And now you leave your full-time job,
Yep.
right? And now you're on this entrepreneurial journey,
Yeah.
right? Did you know, did you ever think, like, when you were younger, did you ever like think like, oh, maybe one day like I'll own my own business, like?
No.
At all? Like,
I don't think I ever thought about it, but like before I quit my first job, like I don't think that I ever thought about it before that moment. And then I still was kind of like, I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't, like we'll just see where this goes. And I kind of was just taking it like day by day with wherever my next decision led. And I think at that point that was so out of character for me, because in college, like I had always thought that like I was going to, like all the fun starts like when I get my job out of school. Like that's when I thought like, oh, I'll be able to relax then, like I'll have like income and whatever, like all the things that you're
like the work is done. Like now the work's like the work, meaning like the school and all that is done. And it's like now it's like time to live. Like that's how you felt?
Exactly. That's how I felt. And I think that's kind of an old school way of thinking, like where I feel like you're like, I definitely feel like I was brought up believing that like you'll have a job for 30 years, and that's just not the day and age that we live in. Like
right.
You're lucky if you have the same job for like 5 years in some places. So and I don't know, just like I was taught that like you do that one thing and that's your decision for like the
you
next
do this and then you do
years.
that and then next you do this, right?
And like you're not really like quitting your job was never a thought for me until really like I came to yoga, which sounds terrible, but like I felt like it like helped me to again like believe that I can really do what I want to do, and have more purpose.
Yeah, and then so you built back the confidence, right?
Yep.
How did you do that? Was it just through yoga, or was it through a combination of that and therapy, or something else?
So at that point, it was mostly just a combination of therapy and yoga, I believe. Like the two, like with and I think in terms of yoga, a lot of the teacher training was also focused on self-growth and a lot of psychological things too, and learning different practices and ways to question your own thoughts and stuff like that. So I felt like that in itself was almost like a different form of therapy for me, just going through the teacher training.
All right, so you said question your own thoughts. What does that mean?
So
Explain
I actually remember dating my husband.
Jerry.
So, like, this was like the
shout out to Jerry,
Yeah.
by the way. I love Jerry.
Shout out to him.
Hi, Jerry.
But I remember I just started dating him, and I was in my teacher training, and I think I was like normal, like when you're first dating someone, like, oh, should I text him first or should I wait, or like whatever.
Yeah, the old
like
debate.
like the stupid things that we do. So I think I was driving, and he texted me earlier in the day, and I think I responded, and I was like all nervous because I'm like, oh, he never answered me back or something stupid. And I remembered like having that thought though, and I'm like, why am I like questioning like, or like putting my self-worth into like him responding? And that was like the first time that I feel like that thought shifted for me a little bit.
So this was something you learned?
Yeah.
Where you learned this in
through my teacher training.
Okay, yeah. So you learned this process of questioning those thoughts that come up in your mind, like right as they happen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of that is practice too. And like if you give me a task, like I'm going to accomplish it. So I feel like that's something that's very easy for me. Like when I'm in therapy, or like if I'm taught ways to navigate different things, like that's very easy for me. So I felt like once someone told me that, that's all I needed to do is like run with it pretty much. So it was a practice that was easy for me. It's not going to be that easy for everybody, but it was for me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. So what else? So what other thoughts or thought patterns, like, I guess from then on, like, did you learn to like recognize and question?
So, I think it, like, a lot of stuff kind of was along the same lines, but at different points in life. So like when I separated from my ex-partner for my first yoga studio, which was 2016, we separated and went different ways, I'll say. When that happened, I was definitely questioning whether I could run a studio on my own, even though we had only been open for a year. So I was really like...
So this confidence thing now is like coming back,
Yep.
right? Like lack of.
Yeah, so I definitely questioned then. And then I'm like, well, why wouldn't people want to come to my yoga class? Like, I know I'm a good teacher, and like they were coming before then for my classes, and nothing ultimately really changed like at the studio after that. So it was just kind of like me seeing that like I can do it then at that point.
Like you can do it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, but like definitely just reframing that way of thinking. Like I like to do an exercise journaling now too, that it's kind of like fact checking. Like, oh, I have this thought, like what part of this is actually real and what part is not possible for it to happen, or like what part is just something that I'm projecting, like it's not a present thing that's happening.
Right, so it's just kind of like a made up, like,
Yep.
it's not factual.
Yeah, so then like as I write that down, then it almost like calms me down, because then I'm realizing, like, it's almost like you're writing out your thought process, and you figure out that like, oh, I'm lying to myself. Like,
Yeah,
this isn't a real thing to be worried about.
Right, I'm worrying about something that is
Yeah.
either most likely probably won't happen, or obviously didn't happen, right? So like you just take thoughts. Are they random thoughts? Like and when you're journaling, right? Is it just anything? Like, is it like like just whatever thoughts are in your head, you just write down whatever, even if it's not a complete sentence?
So it depends on the day, but usually that's how it is for me. Yeah. I'll just start, because I know a lot of people struggle with when I ask them if they journal, like if I'm doing a Reiki session, or like talking to them like with like just in general, like about their anxiety, or like if they're dealing with loss or something, I'll ask them like, do you journal? And a lot of people, like more people than not, are very afraid to journal. Like they just hate it, or they think they're not good at it. And it's not really, again, something just like yoga. It's not something you can be bad at. Really, I think that not having a structure to it is the way to practice it. The way that I ended up enjoying it is I used to call them morning pages, where I'd like set a timer for 5 minutes and I'd literally write any thought that came into my head. So it might be like, it might start out as, oh, I had this for breakfast this morning, and this is how I felt when I woke up, and then this is what happened in the shower, and blah, blah, blah. And then it turns into this whole therapy session that I'm writing about. And it might end up getting deeper than that, but like it starts like at the most basic things that I'm just like writing about. So
like you would do this, like, do you do this every day?
So I used to do it every day. I actually journaled today, and I like wrote down too.
You said, like, I hope I have a great I hope I have a great show on the OnTheStacks podcast. Yes. Was this included in it?
No, it wasn't.
Oh
actually.
shit!
I should have. But no, I was journaling just because this was the first time in like I think 2 months that I've written, and I always I get hard on myself when that happens, because it's like I know better. I know that like I should be practicing and doing like journaling every day, things that I know help me during the hard times, not only journaling during the hard times, because that consistency, it's just like a workout. Like your muscles aren't going to be strong if you quit for 2 months and then get back to it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is like you shouldn't just be doing the journaling or whatever. Mm-hmm. Even in the good times, you should do it just,
Yep.
on a regular, consistent schedule.
Yeah.
Just to be.
Yeah, journaling or like any mindful practices that help you or whatever. Like anything that you feel like makes you fulfilled. Like I think you should be doing that consistently.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I wrote today though. I wrote that I hate that I take breaks on journaling. That was like my first thought. Because
at least you're honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and then it turned into like a lot of different things, like where I know I'm struggling right now, but then like also like I almost reframe it for myself in those journal entries, and like I turned it around to gratitude today. So like something that you're like that I know that you're, and research will tell you this too, but your brain can't be grateful but also negative. Like it just can't happen physiologically. So gratitude was something that like I know I've slacked on practicing lately, and that was something that like I thought of today, like how just how like so the kids thing is like a real big thing for me and my husband currently, and like because we haven't had kids yet. So that was one thing that I thought of today that was heavy on my heart, but I also reframed it to, well, I'm really grateful that like we could take a day trip like we did yesterday and like go an hour and a half away and do something randomly, and like just little things like that that help to make you feel grateful for like what you have instead of what you don't have yet. So
practicing gratitude.
Yep.
Is that and that's part of the journaling?
Yeah. I think it depends on the day again with that too. Like if I feel like that's something that would help me shift, and that comes with practice. But what I did in the beginning a lot of times was I'd literally just write out a list of 1, 2, 3, and then 3 things that I was grateful for every single day. And that was my practice that year. So, or like I might do it for like a month here and there. Like if I feel like I'm not feeling myself as much as I would like to, then or like just feel like I'm jealous or like whatever emotion comes up that you see as being negative, then I always try and go back to that gratitude, and it helps you to just be more authentic and like whole again.
Yeah.
So
Did you have a journal as a kid? I don't know if it's the same for you, but like growing up it was always like your sisters always had like the journal.
Diaries.
And like the diary. Yeah. And you like steal the diary. It was like a big no, right?
Yeah, no, I definitely had diaries, and I don't even know where they are anymore, but I wish.
And they always had like that little cheesy locking key,
that
right?
Didn't really work.
Yeah. I don't think it like ever actually worked, right?
Yeah.
It was just, but it was there. Maybe it did. I don't know. We just didn't know how to use it.
Some of them maybe did, but someone could always rip into those if we knew like how to use scissors. Maybe.
Yeah, you just pry it open, right?
Yeah. But I definitely had diaries, but they were always like silly things. Like I think I would write things about like friends, or if I got in a fight with one of these girls and she was so mean to me or something like that. But I always did do that. I wrote all the time.
Yeah, even as a kid.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's true.
If you really think of it that way, like, you know,
so 2 weeks of a break is nothing.
Yeah, so don't be so hard on yourself. You've been doing this since you were a little kid, right? Some people haven't done it in like ever.
Yeah.
Right? So what else? What other are there any other like skills, tactics, anything that you learned that like, kind of have helped you that you think if you share can maybe help somebody else that's going through the same thing?
So I think especially during the hardest point in my life, I think to date, because that was when my husband was really sick this year. And with that, I feel like the biggest thing, because you're just going back and forth to the hospital and like making sure they're okay, but then when you come home, like when I came home, there was no one there, so it's just my cats. It's like, well, if something happens to him, my entire life like shifts. So it was like a different kind of depression. Like I've never had that type of depression. So this is my most recent, obviously, depression, where you're just imagining like at any point like you can lose that person that your life's built around. So what helped me to almost feel present, even though things were so uncertain while he was healing and we were figuring out, like still learning answers to what was happening, was probably breath work. Breath work, I think, has been like the biggest lifesaver. And especially because I couldn't like do yoga. I mean, I probably could have if I left the hospital and wanted to go to a class, but my mind wasn't thinking or like even wanting to be there at that point. So breath work was something I could go in the bathroom if I wanted to and do 3 minutes of a guided breath work meditation, or just like even just counting my breath, something that I like to do. And it's super easy for like people that don't really enjoy meditating or don't think they can meditate, because you're focusing on the breath and it's a physical thing to focus on. So it helps you to not really feel like you have to meditate per se, but it is a meditation.
But like a kind of like a short burst,
yeah.
something that you can do on the go.
Yep.
In a public restroom or in your
yeah,
car.
Or in your car, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and you're not going to like pass out while you're driving because you're doing breath work.
How does it work? How does it work? Take me through it.
So really, it's just called elongated exhales. So it's super simple. I teach this in a lot of my classes too, but it's taking a breath in for 3 seconds and then a breath out for 4 seconds. Or you could do it.
So is it in through the nose? How's it work?
So you could
in
do
through the nose,
yeah.
out through the mouth?
So
or
you ideally want to breathe in and out through the nose, and that slows your breath down a little bit more, because when the breath is slowing down, then it's also slowing your thoughts down a little bit too. So mentally you're able to slow down. And that's kind of how yoga works as well. But and that's once your breath is able to catch up with the movements, but this is totally separate, obviously, because we're not doing yoga. But so yeah, you would breathe in for 3, 2, 1, and then out for 4, 3, 2, 1. And that elongated exhale helps to actually slow down the blood pressure, or lower the blood pressure and slow down the heart rate. And all of that's been studied and stuff too, but that's the easiest way that I feel like I can do it at the drop of a hat, where you don't have to think too much. There's a couple other exercises that I really like box breathing. You kind of like to imagine a box. I wish I brought a box.
Yeah, geez, should have brought a box.
I know. But you would breathe in for 4 seconds, and then you'd hold it for 4 seconds, and then you'd breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold it for 4 seconds again. And you'd basically do that for like 4 minutes. Sometimes that's challenging though, because of the holding of the breath. Sometimes that can trigger some anxiety with people, especially like if they feel like they're short of breath.
They're like suffocating.
Yeah, the suffocating feeling. So I usually don't like to teach too many of those, because I didn't find those helpful for me as much as just slowing the exhales down.
Yeah. So speaking of breathing, when our friend and one of the instructors at your studio, Mary Vanesco, shout out to Mary, when she was on, we did some sort of breathing exercise.
Oh yeah.
Mary, forgive me for not remembering what it was called, but we did something. And but yeah, so we did a breathing exercise. I think it's important because, like you said, like, you know, in a moment where you're in a situation, you know, like maybe in like a public place, like you said, like you can just go and do that, and you don't have to like go do yoga, because like you can't right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you're in a
exactly.
moment that like you don't have the time to go do that.
Yeah. And it won't make the feelings go away totally, because the emotions are a whole different side of things. But like at least physically, it'll start to stop the anxiety and like the physical symptoms that are happening because of that trigger. So then like you can actually process the emotions and try and get yourself to the present moment versus like being so caught up in, well, what's going to happen? What if this, what if that, and all that. Again, it's easier said than done, but
yeah.
But it's definitely like a tool that I feel like as I practiced it so often before we had those hurdles, it was easier for me to revert back to it, and it helped me to heal along the way, even before we got out of that situation. So.
Yeah, so it was there were tools in the toolbox that you had learned, say, years before, and then when the situation came up that you needed them, you were able to do that, and even in a totally different situation, like you said, this was a totally different type of depression and or anxiety that you experienced at this point, but you were able to use something that you previously learned to be able to get yourself through it. And these are all things that you teach.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. I teach all of them through my yoga classes. But I also like to do like different workshops that are just focused on like a yoga for anxiety workshop I've done that's been like huge, and that's mostly actually on the breath. But then like I'll also like teach for it's over 4 weeks, and then I'll give them like 4 different practices to do, and different poses that are good for anxiety too. And a lot of them you do in a lot of other yoga classes, but it's also nice when you're coming for a specific reason, and then you can kind of connect the dots along the way.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you're not coming just to do yoga. Like you're coming, you have an idea in mind, and then you're taking the appropriate class to kind of get you to where you need to go.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting.
And then like usually after like workshops like that, I can tell them like exactly what ones on the schedule they'd like, if they're still like if anxiety and depression is what they're going for. And a lot of times people come in and they'll open up to me about that regardless. So that's nice too, because then I don't have to direct them to a workshop. I can actually just help them
like right off the bat, like I know what you need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, so this entrepreneurial journey again, now we're fast forward, we're talking about the present, where you're at in your life right now. So but now you're at this point, you're what, like 7-8 years or so into this entrepreneurial journey, right? As a small business owner, what overall, what has that experience been like for you?
So that's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about myself. I feel like the first year that I was by myself with my first studio, I learned the most about all the things I can do, and like even just trusting myself to like carry things out, and financially too, like run a business and like help it to succeed. But not even just that, like I was also, I forgot to mention that I did go back to work at some point too during the time that I was owning the studio by myself, just because I felt like I could do it part-time and still build while I was working full-time. And I like to keep things fresh with like what I'm enjoying doing. So I wanted to do like the coding landing pages again, and like different stuff too, like just to refresh like my skills there, I guess. So I went back to work for about 3 years, doing, again, digital marketing for another company. And it was kind of the same type of thing, where it was like you had all these different hats that you're wearing for different websites. So I enjoyed that. But while I was working full-time and running a studio, now looking back at it, like I don't know how I did it.
Right?
Because I feel like there was so much, and like there's so much now, even with having 2 partners now. So during 2020, ultimately, I actually quit my second job, technically third full-time job at that point, in January or February of 2020, so right before COVID hit, because I was going to go all in on the studio that I had at that point in time. And then, of course, things shifted to all virtual, and I was having a lot of fun with it personally, because I love the virtual world, and like being in digital marketing and stuff, that stuff was always just something that was a passion of mine. And so I kind of got to, like, it was an easy shift for me, I guess, in comparison. Yeah, because
you enjoyed the digital side of things.
Yeah. So then by the end of 2020, we were doing pretty well. But then, like, when people started coming back in, I guess August, they were allowed to be back indoors, but still like small amounts. a lot of people were still fearful. So we were maybe getting like 2 people to come in, and then the rest were virtual. So ultimately I ended up deciding, or I guess being torn about whether I should keep my space or go all virtual. And at that point in time, it just happened that Katie Duffy, who's my one partner now, shout
out to Katie Duffy.
Yeah. she was actually one of my bar teachers at my old studio. And a year prior, she had opened the Salt Bar with my other partner, Michelle Casey.
Shout out to Michelle Casey.
Whose husband is also Casey Dental.
There we go.
Yeah. But
the whole Casey family.
I know. So the 2 of them had asked me to come for lunch, and I just thought it was maybe like we'll brainstorm like how we can utilize COVID or like whatever to build our businesses and work together as a team or something like that. But I didn't think that they were approaching me to come on board with them as like another owner and we'd merge. So basically I had that decision then. Do I go all virtual and close my original doors, or do I just close my doors and give my people that are coming in person and have memberships another space to come to as well? Well, obviously I chose to go.
Obviously,
go with partners.
Yes. Yep.
It was a great meeting with them because I just felt like, I don't know, like I had met with people in the past that had wanted to partner with me, and after I had one partner and separated, I had never thought I was gonna partner with anybody.
You're probably
again.
skeptical, right?
Yeah, but so definitely, like I never thought that was gonna happen again. And upon our meeting, like it just felt like naturally, like intuitively, like that was what I wanted to do. It was like the easiest decision. So,
like you knew it in your gut. It was like a good gut feeling, right?
And that's pretty much how I make all my decisions, is like if it feels good, then I'm going to do it. There's nothing like holding me back. So so we partnered, and like having 3 of us on board, like it's great because I feel like we can cover more ground, even though all of us have a ton of stuff to do all the time. Like it's just nice to even like have somebody to bounce ideas off of and to really finesse things a little bit more than when you're on your own. So
yeah. All right. So tell me a little bit more about the whole experience there.
So the whole experience, it really is like a whole experience.
Yeah.
'Cause once you walk in, like we have a little bit of everything, where even like in terms of coming down to making our brochure, we can't fit everything on it because there's like so many classes. I think we have 42 classes as of right now. So we usually have like around 5 classes a day or so. Some days there's a little bit more, like 6 or 7, depending on like what day it is and the time, and also like how many people are coming to them. And a couple of our classes every week are also virtual, and they're probably always going to stay virtual. We have a non-heated space and a heated space. So we have hot yoga and hot bar, hot Pilates as well. But then we also have some options for those people that really don't want to be in a hot room. And the hot room varies. For certain practices like 26 and 2, it's a traditional hot yoga. That practice needs to be at 105 degrees. I don't like that
That's
personally.
warm. It's warm, people.
But the people that love it,
they
love it.
They do.
So, and then the other classes, most of them are usually in the high 80s or low 90s. Some of them, they might be up to like 95 or so, depending on the teacher and how much they want to kick your butt. But most of them are like at the lower level, I'd say there. And then we have classes like Yin, that is a more meditative, deep stretching type class, where you're not really sweating as much. You're mostly like focusing on like your emotions and how your body feels and that kind of thing versus like getting a workout. And yeah, then there's other classes that are a little bit more high intensity for the person, and like the younger generation, I feel like they really like Inferno Hot Pilates. It's like a HIIT workout, but it's in the hot room. And you're doing like different things like circuit training and that type of stuff, but also a lot of the movements are tied to the basic principles of Pilates. So with the glutes and core being the focus. And then they have just the cardio aspect in it, which is just the signature of Inferno Hot Pilates. And then we have classes like Mary Vanesco's we call it Inferno Core Yoga. So she has like a core yoga flow, where it's just you're going through a yoga flow. If you've done yoga, you know what a yoga flow is. If you don't, then you're coming into like a push-up, and then you're going down onto the mat, and then you're coming into a down dog. You can just Google those, I guess.
Yeah.
But so it's a yoga flow, but it's tied into different movements too, using weights like a circuit training or a Tabata, if you're familiar with that too. So they might do like 3 sets of squats with like 3 sets of lunges on each side, and then she might go back to the yoga flow. So her class is a lot of fun. It's kind of a mix between a yoga class and a hot Pilates. In my mind, that's what I like to kind of explain it as, like for people that haven't taken it. And then we have other yoga classes that are more of the typical all levels vinyasa, where every teacher has their own style and their own speed with it, but it is going to be more of what you're looking for if you're looking to just go to a yoga class. And then we have gentle yoga. We have so many.
You got all kinds of yoga.
Yeah, gentle yoga is the one I recommend for the beginner. So like if you're
Like
not sure where to start.
Yeah, like somebody who's not very flexible like me.
Yes.
And doesn't know where to start like me.
Yeah.
So somebody like me goes to that class,
yeah,
right?
it's a gentle yoga.
Gentle. I like the sound of that.
Yes, and it's a nice one. It's actually my class, and I like to guide people to that too, because that was always the class that I taught even at my old studio, the same time. It's at 7:35 at night on Tuesday nights. It's a 45-minute class, so it's not too long either, but it's a good one to do before bed. And we're in a dark room in that one too, so you don't feel like everybody's looking at you. But I like to actually go around and like make sure people are comfortable, and like I'll ask them, especially if I know that they're a newer student, like if something feels okay on their knees, or like if they have like an injury or something, and then I'll help them get into another pose while the rest of the class is doing something where they're not moving around or looking at them or anything either too. So
it's not too high intense, and you're not like, yelling at these people, right?
No, not at all. I'm whispering.
Right. So it's a very relaxing, like ease into the yoga journey.
Yep. And then usually after they take that class, like they'll let me know, like, I'll ask them afterward, like how they felt in it, and like if they liked it or if it felt too, like it was too much for them, because there's options that they can do less in than gentle yoga, but there's also options where they can do more if it felt like it was too slow for them, or they just want to know, like, well, you saw my skill level now, so like what do you think I can do these other classes? And they can ask about like what times feel like they're good for them, and I can let them know then, because I've seen like where their body's at in that class, so I could tell them like if they'd like it or if it wouldn't be achievable for them at that moment because of an injury or something like that too. So
yeah, so what would you say, along the entrepreneurial journey in general has been like the most rewarding part for you?
That's hard.
It's probably a lot, right?
Yeah. I'd probably say, I mean, for me personally, I guess I love that, like, it's still such a big part of my life, and that, like, it's helped me through those hard times so much. But in terms of, like, the most rewarding, I guess, is like when I know someone's come to yoga and they just lost a husband, or like they're coming there for a reason, and then I get to see their journey. And like a lot of those people, like I've taught them for like years at this point, and like I've known their whole journey, and that's like beautiful to me. So
yeah, being able to see somebody like go through that whole experience and then come out on the other side better for it.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the things too that I've been really grateful for, even just having the studio space that I have, and even the partners too that I have with Katie and Michelle, throughout the challenge that me and Jerry had throughout this year too, was that everybody was so supportive, but everybody was also sharing their experiences with different hard things too. And they still constantly share them with me, but it's unique because I don't feel like you get to hear those experiences from most people. Most people are just too busy and they're just running through their day, and you're not really seeing that part of their life that's so intimate, and you're also not connecting on that level where it's like now it's like they shared a piece of them with me and I've shared my journey with them too. So it's almost like I don't even know how to explain it. It's like you just have this.
You have this energy, this connection.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that's like something so special, and I wouldn't know what to do without it.
Yeah. How's Jerry doing, by the way?
Oh, he's doing great. I mean, he's still weird, but
Of course he's weird.
He doesn't look like he has anything physically wrong with him.
Yeah.
There's a lot mentally, but
But he's doing all right.
yeah.
I love you, Jerry. All right. What else? How can our listeners connect with you online? Like, what's the best way for someone to? I know you already talked about the Gentle Yoga Classic if they want to get started, but like, what's the best way for somebody to learn more about you guys?
So I think that Instagram, our handle, I had to think of what the name was, but the handle is The Salt Bar. You can also email us at thesaltbar@gmail.com, and it's just the salt and then BARRE is how you spell bar. You can also find us on Facebook at The Salt Bar. And then our website is, did I say website?
I don't think so.
I don't think I did. thesaltbar.com. And that has information too, like our phone number and everything on there as well, which I did not memorize.
It's all right. All right. And physical location, like if somebody wanted to just, some people don't like to call, some people just like to show up. What do they do?
So if you're looking for our physical location, we're usually closed in the afternoons, but we're open every morning and then every evening. Every morning it's usually from like 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then in the evening we open back up at 5 and we're open until 8. So if you're looking for physical location though, we are next to the banks in Pittston. If you're not familiar with that, it's the old Coopers in Pittston.
That's right. Yeah. It's like downtown Pittston.
Yep. It's the old Pittston Apparel building. And there's a sign out front too. So
can't miss it. Right. All right. Well, this is great. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience. I think, when people like you come on here and are willing to share, some of their struggles, I think it really helps other people. And, even if it just gives one person the courage to, ask for help or even to come to your yoga class because they heard this episode and they heard what you went through, what Jerry went through, and they, people will be able to connect, kind of like you said, people will be able to connect with your story and your journey and realize how much this stuff has helped, you as a person grow as a, just on a personal level, professional level, the whole bit. So good for you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I was excited.
Absolutely. All right. Alyssa Kashuda on the Stacks podcast in the Blue Door studio. Thanks for joining me.